Hey everyone, and welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. Today, we're diving deep into a really fascinating shift happening in the world of international commerce, something that's really coming into focus in 2025. We're talking about friendshoring and the rise of strategic trade alliances. Sounds a bit official, right? But trust me, it's changing how countries and companies do business, moving away from just finding the cheapest place to make things, and thinking more about who their friends are on the global stage. Let's unpack it. So what exactly is this friendshoring buzzword? Imagine you're running a big company and you need parts for your products. For years, you might have just looked for the cheapest supplier, no matter where they were. Friendshoring flips that script. It's all about relocating your supply chains, basically where you get your stuff from, to countries that are political and economic allies. Think of it as choosing to do business primarily with your friendly nations. Why the change? Well, recent years have shown us just how vulnerable global supply chains can be to geopolitical tensions, trade disputes, and all sorts of disruptions. So the big idea here is to build more secure and reliable supply networks by sticking with countries you trust. Now, while building a friends-only supply chain sounds cozy and stable, it's not all smooth sailing. One of the biggest hurdles? Cost. Moving production to allied countries might mean higher labor costs or operational expenses compared to those traditional, super cheap offshoring spots. Plus, the pool of friendly countries that also have the specific manufacturing capabilities or resources you need can be pretty limited. This could, ironically, create new dependencies just on a different set of countries. What's interesting is that as of early 2025, we're seeing a bit of an evolution here. Some businesses are realizing that putting all their eggs in just a few friendly baskets might not be the ultimate solution either. So they're diversifying, spreading their trade networks across multiple regions to truly hedge their bets. This offers new opportunities, but definitely makes managing those supply chains even more complex. Running parallel to this friendshoring trend is the equally important rise of strategic trade alliances. This isn't entirely new, but it's getting a serious reboot. Countries are increasingly using things like free trade agreements, or FTAs, and forming new economic blocs. The goal? To boost cooperation, make trade flow easier between member nations, and get everyone on the same page regarding standards and regulations. Think of it as countries teaming up to create their own superpowered economic zones. We're seeing major regional trade blocs gaining steam, like the RCEP, that's the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership in Asia. And there's talk of new agreements brewing in Africa and Latin America. This could mean a future where regional trade becomes much more dominant, helping countries diversify their trade relationships and rely less on any single, dominant global player. Okay, so with all this reshuffling, friendshoring here, new alliances there, what does it actually mean for the global economy? Well, the impacts are pretty significant. First, supply chain restructuring is in full swing. Companies are tearing up their old plans and redesigning their supply chains. This means finding diverse sources for materials, investing in regional hubs, and sometimes even bringing manufacturing closer to home, a strategy called nearshoring. Or all the way back to their home country, which is reshoring, often hand in hand with friendshoring. Second, there are obvious cost implications. Shifting where you make things and where you get your supplies from naturally changes your costs, from raw materials to transportation, and it affects your overall efficiency. While friendshoring aims for that long-term stability, it might mean higher upfront costs, or even ongoing higher costs, compared to the old model of just chasing the lowest price. Third, and this is a big one, economists are watching for impacts on inflation and GDP. Some are warning that if this trend of friendshoring and forming separate trading blocs goes too far, it could actually shrink the global GDP. Imagine the world economy fragmenting into pieces that could potentially fuel inflation too. Estimates vary, but some studies suggest we could see noticeable hits to global economic growth if we end up with severe economic decoupling between these blocs. Fourth, we're seeing shifting trade balances. Governments are actively trying to encourage domestic production or favor their allied nations through things like tariffs and subsidies. This is literally redrawing the trade maps and can seriously shake up global trade imbalances. Fifth, there is technological and resource segmentation. Unequal access to crucial things like advanced technologies and critical raw materials, think stuff needed for clean energy or high-tech manufacturing, can further drive the formation of these competitive blocks. Each group might try to control its own tech and resources. And finally, it's having a varied impact on different economies. Some developing economies are really finding their footing in this new landscape. Countries like Vietnam and India, for example, are deepening their trade ties with specific partners and benefiting. But it's not a universal win. Some regions, like parts of Africa, are actually seeing challenges, including a decrease in trade even within their own region. So if you're a business trying to make sense of all this, how do you navigate this shifting terrain? It really comes down to being agile and thinking strategically. A key strategy is supplier diversification. Don't rely on just one country or region for your critical supplies. Spreading out your sourcing helps minimize risks if one area faces disruption. Investing in technology is also crucial. Automation, AI-driven simulations, and digital twins, which are virtual replicas of your supply chain, can give you much better visibility and help you anticipate bottlenecks before they cripple your operations. Companies should also focus on strengthening regional alliances. If you're operating in a region with strong trade agreements, make the most of them. Build solid relationships with partners in politically aligned areas. The overarching theme here is a focus on resilience. The goal is to build supply chains that are not just efficient, but also adaptable and robust enough to withstand those geopolitical shocks and economic ups and downs. And, of course, you absolutely have to stay abreast of policy changes. Trade policies, tariffs, sanctions, these things are constantly evolving and can massively impact where you can source from and where you can sell. So to wrap it all up, 2025 is really shaping up to be a pivotal year where these twin forces, friendshoring, and strategic trade alliances, are actively reshaping global trade as we know it. The aim is noble, to enhance security and stability in a very uncertain world. But as we've seen, these strategies come with significant economic trade-offs and complexities that businesses and policymakers have to wrestle with. The long-term success story here will depend on finding that delicate balance between geopolitical security blankets and good old economic efficiency. And critically, it will hinge on fostering enough international cooperation to prevent the global economy from splintering too much. It's a fascinating, high-stakes game of global strategy, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on how it unfolds. That's all the time we have for today on G-Fun-Facts Online. I hope this gave you a clearer picture of the big economic shifts happening right now. What are your thoughts on friendshoring? Let us know. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.